The building originally opened in 1946. It closed in 1996. The city of Maumee bought it in 2000. They put about $3 million into the building, and we reopened in 2005. We got a neon marquee up front. We got some red neon running lights inside here, just to kind of keep that Art Deco vibe going on. A lot of places that have old buildings like ours won't put the money into restoring it, just because it does cost a lot of money to run a movie theater. But I'm really glad that the city of Maumee saw the value in our building. This theater seats 494 people. It's got a full stage. So this is the main movie projector. Everything runs through here. We can also run people's laptops or cable television through this movie projector. It's essentially a computer running a projector with a light bulb. Movies come in on a hard drive. So they used to come in, all kinds of big shipment to film, and we have to, put it together. Now it just comes in on a hard drive. So it's about a terabyte hard drive. Movies are about 250 gigabytes on average, so they're pretty large files. And then we basically just download it to the projector server. I can control this from any laptop in the world. Not as much art as click and play as threading a film through all the reels and the 15 different turns it makes and tension on it. You just get 2 hours to yourself, to enjoy a movie in a great atmosphere with some popcorn pop, and then you can talk about it with the people you were here with afterwards. I've been in plenty of movies where people clap at the end. I've talked to people, as we're walking out. You might make some new friends on the way. It's just always fun to go to a theater. For the older theaters, like when we converted for the digital projection, it's each one of those projectors is $200,000 to $300,000. So if you have 2 or 3 screens, that's a significant upfront cost to make the transition. And if you don't make the transition, you're not going to play movies. So if you're not willing to put the money in to convert to digital like we did back in about 2011, you're just not going to be able to play movies anymore.
We're a very unique building on the outside and the inside. On the outside, it's more like the bark is bigger than the bite, right? So it looks a lot less impressive on the outside. It's just a brick building. Than the inside, where you come in and it's a nostalgic experience coming into like the warm main lobby, and you get to see all of the old carpeting. Like this is still the original carpeting, the architecture. The theater actually started out as a film house. It did the Nickelodeon movies, so the community would come in, pay like the 5 cents, watch a movie, spend some time with their family, and then they would skedaddle. We used to have a raised stage, and what it seems like there are pillars, and then we had the movie screen. And that's a little bit different from now, where we took off the platform stage. We cleared it out, it's even level, and we just have the curtains. So February 28th is when we first opened, and our opening program was Douglas Fairbanks' The Mark of Zorro. That was the first film that we showed. It's really cool to show people the theater for the first time. This is it. I really enjoy the look of the theater just all together. And the seats really tie it. Issue we have with them is people in the 20s were generally thinner. Definitely some work, but you can see the original architecture and the craftsmanship and the effort and passion that went into it. It's really cool to see also that we are a historic theater, but we're able to accommodate all of the modern tech needs as well. So we have a very custom rig up here. These are front lights, all of them. So that's all of our lights. We have some down lights. This one I really like. It's a mix. It's not necessarily focused on anything, but it's just a mix of color. This one I really like because the house lights get red. It's labeled fire. So it starts at T and goes down, and that's 700. Basically, that's the ash from it actually being used. I think these are a priceless asset to our theater. I'd be really sad to see them go. And over here too, you can see how you used to hear so analog film. These would be the splitters and all of the actual manual gear that they would use to edit the films. So you'll see we have these antique film reels. These ones are a little in better repair, like these guys, where it actually has the film reel. So it's really cool. We'll have a lot of the film reels that we've collected over the years. Do a Charlie Chaplin film, you'd pull it out, come out, and you load it in the projector. I think the nostalgia is very much needed. You know, to know the history of how we got here is very important. But I think it's more of an inconvenience now to actually go back to these systems and use them. I'm really excited to see what the future holds for the Ohio Theater. I think that it is a great opportunity for the community within Toledo, specifically the North End and One Village, to kind of use this space as a community hub for people to connect and share their time together in a positive way.
This building was built in 1926. It was one of the first single-screen movie theaters to open in the state of Ohio. Probably sometime in the later 90s, they still did a Rocky Horror Picture here every Thursday, and I think that's the last time it was actually still in its movie theater configuration when a movie was shown here. Most people, when they walk in for the first time, usually say, "Oh wow," out loud. For a long time, we were a nightclub and special event venue. The owner of the building remodeled the place and reopened in 2008, and we were one of the biggest bars and clubs in Northwest Ohio. And as the climate kind of changed up here for Bowling Green bars, we dropped away from the club scene, and we focus now more on special events. What sets us apart from a lot of other venues is the fact that you can have your dance floor and your dining space. We've got some tables out here from our last wedding. So we do still have the screen. We occasionally will throw a movie up on there. The projector room now is a conference room, which is actually a pretty cool room. It's a glass tabletop with like telephone poles. Nice place for everyone to sit and talk. I think the coolest feature though is the Tiffany lamps that are hanging from the ceiling. That was always a big sticking point whenever we would sell one of the VIP lofts here. You were fine as long as you didn't touch one of the lamps, and if you did, that was pretty much game over for the night. A lot of the places have been completely gutted and converted, or like this place, it sat empty and just used as storage for almost a decade. I love coming to work here. It doesn't feel like a job.
The theater originally seated about 600. The orchestra pit used to go underneath the stage, and in the 1950s, the nuns, for some reason or other, put in a false wall here and moved the orchestra pit forward. The history of the building goes back into the architecture of the time. We took the keys in October of 1985. So in October of '85, I met the nuns out at the front of the building out here after working with them for that year to get ready. They handed me the key as they left, and the building had never been vacant at that point. And it took us 5 to 6 years before we had enough heat in the building because there was no source of heat here. These boxes on either side were places where VIPs could sit. The one on the stage right side, the house left over here, was called the Bishop's Box. And the reason for that was that when the Catholic school would be doing a graduation ceremony, a performance, or whatever things that had going on, and the bishop was invited, the bishop would go over to the right stage over here into an entree room where he'd be entertained until such time as the performance would begin. Well, then when it would start, he would come out through the back of the box and sit in his chair. The audience knew that was a signal that that was the start of the program. It's the worst place to see a play from, but the best place to be seen. The theater, it is kind of different than most of the theaters here in America. It has fantastic acoustics, and that's both a positive and a negative. It's really designed as a stage that would have like a small trio or even a single performer rather than to have a group, so that you get a clear thing, a recital stage. I worked at the World Theater on Dorr Street as an usher. That was my first real job. I earned 33 1/3 cents an hour back in around 1953, 54. I ran the follow spot for the burlesque company down there at the Esquire Theater, St. Clair Street on the south side of downtown. My wife wasn't real happy with that. When she said break a leg, she meant it. But this theater is unique in Toledo right now as far as the house is concerned. a small child can be on the stage speaking in a normal voice like we are today, and it can be heard throughout the 600-seat auditorium because of very fine acoustics. So this is a counterweight system, manually operated, and the counterweight system is designed so that these weights equal approximately the weight of the curtain on the other end. So it's like a teeter-totter. Our way down to the dressing rooms. Well, we've cleaned all that out, and with the help of volunteers, we've constructed dressing rooms. So we put up these walls that we got from a donation from a building being remodeled downtown, and we've installed these dressing rooms on either side of this general space here in the middle, so that there'd be a men's and a ladies' dressing room on each side of the stage. I got to read the water meter. I do that every day. We are entering the basement of the Lois Nelson Theater, underneath the theater. This is where a lot of props, costumes, things are stored that are utilized not only by our art center, but loaned out to other people. And now you can come down the hallway into the underground theater. Here we are in the Black Box Underground Theater. A black box theater is something created by the people in England back in the 19th century, I believe. And the whole idea was just like a painting artist who is trying to put a painting on a canvas. They look around and they got their canvas mounted and they pick out a brush and they pick out a color and they make a stroke. Well, the whole idea to us, non-painters, is how did they know what brush, what color, and where to put that first stroke on that blank canvas? Well, it's the same thing with a performing artist. They come into a black box and there's nothing here. There's no chairs, there's no stage, there's nothing. Now they say, well, gee, I'm going to do a show with a stage here. But small plays for maybe 100, 125, 150 people, it's what it's best used for. But it's different kinds of things that we try to offer for different types of use. You can see our marquee up here. I kind of said if we're going to have a theater, we have to have a marquee.
It has a rich history here at the Valentine. Opened on Christmas Day in 1895. It was going strong right up until the 1920s. At that point, late 1920s, Lowe's movie houses were coming through and taking over a lot of the live performance houses and turning them into movie palaces, and that's what happened at the Valentine. So Gone with the Wind opened in January 1940 here, and people lined up for blocks to come see the movie here at the Valentine, and it played for quite some time, at which point they closed the theater down when one government center opened, and the last of the government workers who had been in this building left. And it was headed for the wrecking ball, and concerned citizens came together and worked very hard to create what they called the Save the Valentine, or Save Our Valentine, and were able to work through the governor's capital request budgets and raise about $23 million, at which point they could renovate the theater, and on October 9th, 1999, the Valentine reopened and has been going strong ever since. When it was renovated, it was understood that we would need more space for the number of people coming through. So the grand lobby was built as an addition to the original structure. This is the loge, and it's a beautiful vantage point to watch the stage. Box seats, people do enjoy sitting in those. We have box seats, the main stage, the orchestra seats, here in the loge, and then this is labeled the balcony. That's the orchestra pit. The pit can hold, it doesn't look like it could, but you can get 40 or 50 musicians down there. You know, when you think about all the people who have been through this building, we'll be celebrating our 125th anniversary of the building next season. So 125 years. And the people who came through Toledo, you know, the turn of the century, this was a hub for artistry. And for the touring circuit, it was New York, Chicago, Toledo. So we were able to bring in the greats here. This is our the balcony portion of the theater. It's considered an intimate venue, because truly you are fairly close to the stage no matter where your seat is. And different vantage points And really, every seat is excellent. You're not going to have any obstructed sight line. The historic theaters, they just speak to America. They speak to the importance of the performing arts and the rich history that we have in this country of the support and the understanding and the, our need to continue on with the performing arts as an important part of our humanity. Downtown Toledo would be very different without it.
The building itself, it was actually built for a church originally. We have a stained glass window from the original church. From the outside you can see where there looked like there used to be windows, completely closed in now, so it would have been in one of those. Here above the house and theater, we store our smaller props and try to keep them organized by different types, so books, kitchenware, suitcases. This is the stage.
Hey, what are you doing in here?
Me?
It's world famous. It's a legendary venue. Everybody from U2 to Snoop Dogg, everybody's performed here, so long history. Back in the 80s, I used to own Blondies. Harpo's was my competition with the touring bands. And one day I says, man, I hope one day I'm going to own a big theater like Harpo's, and here I am. These boots, all those actually are mine. I saw Kiss first time at the Michigan Palace, and I said, man, look at those shoes. I went to Toronto, they were custom made. I even put my initials. So Harpo's used to come here when I was younger. They got this Saturday Night Fever disco floor, and I used to dance with these platforms. Now I own the whole floor. All snakeskins, man. Let's see, get some lights here. I'll show you. This is the old projection room where they projected the movies. A lot of people say, man, it must be worth some money. Why don't you sell it? I'm not going to sell it. It's part of the history here. They took all the seats and they converted it into a nightclub in the 70s. It was a discotheque, and then in the 80s became a heavy metal club. Yeah, and that's what mostly it's known for, the heavy metal. Cool bands used to pack this place. Lines around the building. Yeah, you see that? Well, this is like Art Deco. This is where they came in, movie theater, popcorn. Now we sell some, T-shirts. This is the dance floor from the 70s. It does light up, and the only existing floor in the United States that still operates, works. They filmed a movie here last year because of the floor. This is 4th Street, that's Blondie's 7 Mile. I want to keep the name going, incorporate the name. Another historic, iconic venue. So, positively no stage diving, guys. This is the pit. This is where they mosh, the big mosh pit. So you gotta have people on the stage, security to protect the musicians. I was the first one that booked Slayer in Detroit, back in the 80s. Actually, this belonged to Bob Seger. Get to a stage area. Go on that stage, I get goosebumps. Old curtain, man, fireproof curtain. A lot of bands tell me they're nervous, man. They're like exciting to be here because they heard about it. They know who performed at that stage. Look at the roster, man. It goes on and on. Crocus, U2, Huey Lewis, Gary Moore, Quiet Riot. Goes forever. You see that? Joe Walsh. Good night. Golden Earring, Uriah Heep. You see that? Rick Derringer. I mean, James Brown. Come on, man, everybody. It's in my blood, man. It's not like I'm making money. I don't want this venue to become another parking lot, just like the other theaters, they're demolishing everything. I know it's not the greatest neighborhood, but it's a legend here. I gotta preserve it. I love rock and roll. For the Detroit scene, yeah. I gotta keep it going. I gotta keep the legend going.